You've explained that there are fiscal constraints here in West Sacramento that we're going to be dealing with, and we've also had a cut in our redevelopment funds. Taking a look at, taking that into consideration, how can you consider, looking at improving the lives of West Sacramentans and maintaining the well-being of those who live here?
Yeah, it's definitely harder. It was easier to think about lots of new initiatives and quality of life improvements when we didn't have a recession and when the legislature wasn't, didn't have its hand in our budget. But it doesn't mean that we can't do things now. I mean, just as the recession's affecting each of us in our personal lives, and we might be worried about unemployment, or we might be dealing with a short sale or a foreclosure, that doesn't mean that you just sit home all day and think about how bad your life is. You still take the kids to the park. You still run around the block with the dog and have a good time. You don't just give up, and we don't either. And so, yeah, we are definitely more fiscally challenged than we have ever been, and we've made drastic cuts to our public services in the community while trying to protect public safety and some of our core services for sure. But there's still a lot of things for us to do. And so one core strategy for achieving that is we're very aggressive in getting outside funds. And so as I've mentioned, we've gotten federal grant after federal grant. I think per capita, I think we've received more federal grants and state grants than any other city or county in the region over the last several years. And we're on track to continue doing that. Because we have really good projects where a federal and state government like to invest here because they can see the change that gets created. And when you give us $1, we make $5 out of it and we get the project done. So we've been very successful getting federal grants. And we're still working very hard on economic development to grow our own economy. And so I mentioned that we're launching a major hotel project on the waterfront next to the Tower Bridge, and that's going to be a major economic catalyst as well. And so it's certainly requiring us to be more creative, and it's created a lot more constraints, the recession and the challenges of the state budget. But there's still a lot of strategies in front of us to make significant improvements in services and the quality of life in our community.
So, just to move on forward here, why should people vote for you?
Well, if you think that the city's on the right track, and this is, I've been mayor so long now that I can't say, if you think it's been going badly, I'm going to fix it. I am who I am at this point, and the work that we're doing, I think, is really terrific. And if you think that we're in the right direction, then I'm the right guy to sustain that. If you think we need to take a 180 and go turn back the clock, I'm not the right candidate to lead the city. But I think most folks in this community appreciate that we're making progress in a big way while also preserving what it really means to be West Sacramento. That just with all the new neighborhoods and all the the new library, the new college, the STIRS headquarters, the hotel, and the new West Capitol, it's still West Sac, and it's still the same people. We haven't bulldozed people's homes. It's still us, and it's still our sense of small town connectedness and family, and I think we've threaded that needle in a way that a lot of places haven't. They've either failed, they've been unable to transform themselves, or they have forgotten who they were, and they sold themselves out to some big development projects, and they no longer have that sense of place and character, heritage, and respect for who they really were in the first place. And I think we're getting that done right, and I think most folks in the community think the same thing.
If you're elected, what do you hope to accomplish beyond your priorities?
Well, I have a pretty expansive set of priorities. In terms of what we've got some major projects on the waterfront that I want to get done. Both the projects that we're building now, but also they are intended to catalyze additional waterfront projects that will create lots of different kinds of places on the waterfront. So some high energy places where you go for waterfront concerts and maybe to a pub or art gallery, and then some places where you can reflect on nature and on the legacy of the place that we've inherited, and other places where you might be able to appreciate things like the industrial history of the city and the port. So the waterfront's a critical priority, and there are a lot of projects I want to finish. Our downtown, which we've just finished the public projects that are massive, this new library, college, community center, transit center. I want to build a streetcar project, and I think we're close to getting that together. Now has to induce lots of private sector development, including housing and offices, but also lots of shops and restaurants and cultural amenities like galleries and theaters and what have you. So our downtown is a big priority. and then our continuing work on working with the school district on the improvement of the schools, especially the schools that are struggling the most, with the kids who need great schools the most, has been a big priority. And then helping at the regional scale. You know, I've worked very hard to make West Sacramento a player at the regional scale because it's good for West Sacramento, but also because it's good for the whole region. And you know, although we all live in West Sacramento, a good chunk of the folks that live here spend a lot of their time in Sacramento or in Davis because that's where they work. So it's not enough just to say we want to have a great West Sac and forget about everywhere else. If you live here, you do care whether downtown Davis is destroyed or downtown Sacramento is underwater from a flood, because that's our livelihood too. And it may be that grandma lives there, and vice versa. You know, folks who live in Sacramento and Davis and work here as a job center, we're interrelated as a region. And so, although as a government we tend to think, you know, it's just about our boundaries, I think one of the things I've been particularly committed to is working actively at the regional scale to help make sure that the whole Sacramento region does well, that these values around prosperity that reaches everyone, and social equity, and environmental sustainability, and stopping sprawl in particular, have been big priorities, and they will continue to be at the regional scale, even outside of our own borders.
Do you have any questions for us?
No, I think I know you guys.
Yeah. Do you want to, since we're going to be putting these on the website, do you want to do a pitch to voters of why it's so important they should vote in this election?
Yeah, this is not an election with the president on the ballot, but I think what we know in California is how critical this vote's going to be, both for the future of the state, but also in the future of communities, just like this one. And you know, the future of West Sacramento could go in any number of directions, both because of our local city election, but what happens, who the new governor is will matter a great deal. Who our U.S. Senator is will matter a great deal as to whether or not we can achieve the vision of our own city. And there'll be ballot propositions, as there always are, that make a big difference in people's everyday lives. And so it's really critical that each of us participate in that election in a real way, and get educated, and watch videos like this on the internet, read up, and really understand those issues that are up there, because it's not just about who the President of the United States is. Most of the work in a democracy is done by all the other levels of government and all the other branches of government, and you can't just pay attention once every 4 years. Democracy is definitely a participatory sport all 4 years of the cycle.